Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get into today's episode, a couple of quick, really cool things to tell you about. First of all, congrats to Phil Lanzon, Uriah Heep's keyboardist and one of the primary songwriters, for finishing his book trilogy, The Evil with a Thousand Faces. All three books, the first two are available now. The third one is on pre-order. It will be available March 31st. Get your order in. On the website, scotthaskin.com, go to Uriah Heep Podcast, scroll down to Phil's section, and you will see links for all three books on Pegasus and Amazon UK. The first two books are available on Amazon US. I am waiting for that link for the third one to show up, but get your order in. That is a huge undertaking, so seriously, well done, Phil. Also, I told you guys about this on the first couple of episodes. Go to Elke's website. That is in the show notes and on my website as well. And go check out her picture. She's done a beautiful picture that spans Uriah Heep's music over the first 24 albums. There is a song to be found. A couple albums have two songs, but there is at least one song per album to be found. The answers are on her website, as well as the full picture and some zoomed in things. And she will also give you hints. So it's a very cool thing. It's a lot of fun to see if you can figure out what pictures represent what songs. And it was a great painting by Elke. So go and check that out. And now, today's episode. Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week, we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. Happy Monday, you guys. I am your host, Scott Haskin, here with another thrilling song from the 2018 album, Livin' the Dream, the 24th studio release by Uriah Heep. We are cruising through this one far too quickly, I'm afraid. Today we're talking about the song, It's All Been Said. But before we talk about what's been said, let's say some other things. I want to take a few moments to let you guys know, if you haven't gotten your Everyday Rocks box set from BMG already, if there are still any available, grab yours quickly. It is an amazing package. 7 very thick, high quality, beautifully painted picture discs. Well, I shouldn't say painted because they aren't painted, but the graphics on them are just stunning. And then there's 7 really comfortable t-shirts, probably the most comfortable shirts I've ever owned in my life. You get a wall calendar, you get lyric cards. It's just a fantastic package, and it'll also look beautiful sitting on your bookshelf. It's big. It definitely takes up some space because there's so much crammed in there. Of course, once you take the t-shirts out and you put them on hangers, it feels like there's a lot of empty space, but it still looks great on your shelf. I love that eye design on the front. The clockwork, it's just really cool. If you haven't seen the unboxing video I did for it, it is on my YouTube channel. Mick also did a video on it. Very well done. Just a very classy, cool package. You can also check out the Choices box set, which are several CDs based on the choices by band members, past and present, that, hey, if you want to check out Uriah Heep, here's the songs that I think are essential. And they've all made some great selections, very diverse. Some have some crossover, because they would agree that this would be an essential Uriah Heep song, but a very cool and classy box set with the bird logo. It's really nice, guys. So check those out. You can get those at uriah-heep.com, the host website for all things Uriah Heep, created and maintained by none other than social media director Dave White, who also does mick-box.net's website for all things Mickbox. And he's quite a guy, you guys. Check him out. As if you don't love his playing enough, I can tell you he's just a really awesome guy. And so is Dave. Gotten to know these guys quite a bit while I've been doing this podcast, and it's a real pleasure to be people that I call friends. Whether they call me friends, that's another story, but let's hope so. Anyway, I also want to thank my patrons who have just been wonderful for the last year and a half. Some have come on a little later, but just people that care enough about the show and enough about what I'm doing to want to help me pay for the costs, and I greatly appreciate that. And I'm going to go backwards this time. At the $1 Traveler in Time tier, The one that is closed up like a bag of cereal when you're really hungry, airtight gravesite. At the $3 The Wizard tier, we have Peter Voss, Goran Eriksson, Frank Thielgaard Mortensen, and William Rose. And at the $5 Easy Living tier, Kenny Wymore and Brad D. Thank you guys so much. You know, it really, really does mean a lot to me. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm just saying that every week when I talk about you. It's really, I really mean it. You know, sometimes like you say the same things and it can sound scripted, but honestly, I can say it's from the heart. I greatly appreciate what you guys have done to help the show and to help me. And it's just inspiring to know that you wanted to do that based off something that I helped create. Well, created really. Also, if you guys, anyone else out there would like to donate to the show, you could do so through the Patreon or through PayPal. Go to my website, scotthaskin.com. Go all the way to the bottom of the Uriah Heep podcast link, and you will see links for both PayPal and Patreon. Also want to thank Cakewalk by BandLab, who is the program that has been so incredibly perfect for me all these years as a musician and as a podcaster. Every podcast that I've done as someone who's recorded it or even edited has been done in Cakewalk in, you know, one version or another. And also all the, you know, music for years. I've done audiobooks on it. It's such an important staple. I mean, it really is the foundation of my studio. Also, Podbean, who is the distributor of the podcast. They send it out to all the places like iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google, Amazon, Stitcher, everywhere that you can listen. It brought about by them. Even the player that I have on my website is a Podbean player. It was created by them. I just put the HTML on my website, and they make it very, very simple. I really appreciate all that they do for me. Even though we never talk, it's all just, hey, I bought a package and I do all the work, but they do all the behind the scenes work that would take me hours, and they get it done in seconds, which I love. Also want to thank my graphic artist, Scott Lazinski, who did the logos for the show, Audionamics, who I will not do a podcast without their product, Instant Dialogue Cleaner. Also, if you're into or interested in separating audio tracks, splitting things out into tracks like vocals, drums, bass, and other, check out their X-Track Stems program. It is absolutely amazing. I'm just so impressed with what they've created, and they're the most wonderful people. If you go to my personal Facebook, my profile picture is typically me at the NAMM show, where they featured me on their rotating screen. They had used a sample from one of my podcasts to show how easy IDC is to work. And I really appreciated that. That was such a cool moment for me, and they're just great people to hang out with. And also, you know, everyone who has shared the podcast, 50,000 plus downloads. It's been a really amazing journey. We've still got a little ways to go here, more surprises to come, but that's where we are right now. Last but not least, my brothers in the Deep Dive Podcast Network, the ever-growing ocean of podcasts that we all support each other. And there's such a great group of people. You can go to Twitter and look up hashtag Deep Dive Podcast Network, and you can find a lot of our posts under that. Also, the shows directly would be Nate and John at the Deep Purple Podcast, The Simple Man at Skinnerd Reconsidered Podcast, all things Leonard Skinnerd up to a point. Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the other side, interviews with musicians that are, you know, people that you'd know, people that have made an impact on the industry. And he's such a great interviewer. Rye over at Sabbath's Bloody Podcast, covering Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne's music. Joe and David at In the Lap of the Pods, covering the music of the band Queen. And they have gone beyond that into just a gaggle of random things that everyone, I'm like, oh, cool, they did this. Oh, cool, they did that. And they're great guys to listen to. Also, Andy and Matt over at Hawk Binge, a podcast based on the band Hawkwind. We have Eric and Jonathan at Maiden A to Z Pod, a podcast of all things Iron Maiden. Daniel and Josh at Diary of the Madmen, the ultimate Ozzy podcast. We're talking about Ozzy Osbourne, of course, not Ozzy and Harriet. Ben and Sam at Universally Speaking, the Red Hot Chili Peppers podcast. George and Tom at the Metal Gods podcast, covering the music of Judas Priest, who I saw tour with Uriah Heep the last time they were here in the States, over at the Hard Rock Hotel, when it was still the Hard Rock Hotel. It has now been bought by Virgin Hotels, and it is now Virgin Hotels. Although there is word that the Hard Rock that they sold, that they got from selling the Hard Rock to Virgin, and they are going to implode the Mirage and build a new Hard Rock because of course they would. It's going to be a giant guitar-shaped hotel, which is going to make elevators very interesting. And last but not least, we have Mark and Corey at And the Podcast Will Rock, a podcast about the music of the band Van Halen. Also, I got to talk about my buddy Brandon over at Metallicast, my favorite Metallica podcast. And gottahear'emall.com is a wonderful website covering the live histories of bands such as Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and all their variations. Really informed and entertaining website. Go check that out. And last but not least, Ace on Music on Stitcher and on YouTube. It's Ace the Music Man. Ace, the band's manager, has his own show, and it is incredible. Very knowledgeable stuff. Talks about experience in the music industry, trends he sees, things he's concerned about, things he's happy with, all things music industry. And he does such a great job with that show. Him and his co-hosts are just really enjoyable to listen to and do a great job. So check out all that stuff, guys. They're all great resources for entertaining you, for filling your head with all the things that you want to know or things you didn't want to know. Your head's going to get filled. Just look at it that way. So that brings us to today's song. It's called It's All Been Said, track number 7 off Living the Dream. Okay, there's a lot to unpack right here. Right off the bat, great organ intro, gives you the pulse of the song, but doesn't really give anything away. It doesn't tell you how the drums are going to play, whether they're going to be straight in that tempo, double time, half time. You just don't know. And then there's just that nice quick swell that goes into the riff. I love the riff. This is a great rock and roll riff. And it's intricate, but not complicated. It feels good to listen to. It's just something that you can just sit back and go, this is going to be a fun ride right off the bat. Love it. And then, of course, I love the way that Dave and Phil are following along with that. Really filled out the overall sound nicely. And then the drums are really interesting here. I love just that straight quarter note beat on the bass drum. The snare comes in. But it's the dynamic work he's doing between the ride cymbal and it just really makes it an interesting, almost jazzy kind of feel, but yet it's still rock and roll. Then when he switches to the toms, if you listen really closely, you can hear these ghost notes on the snare that add a lot to the overall sound of the drum track. Really nice. And then, of course, we've got the Oz over that, just a really massive, powerful feel right off the bat. This is really interesting. It's really intense. It's got a fire to it, this song does. Everyone is playing so tight, playing with such perfection on their parts, yet it feels kind of relaxed, like they're really comfortable playing it. It does. When I listen to it, I don't feel like they were all tensed up and concerned. I feel like they just knew what they were doing. They went in and did it. And I love how the stops with the little keyboard fill-ins come in. But then on the third one, there's no keyboard. So you really get to hear the amount of reverb that they're actually using. Now, sometimes they might dial it back or enhance it for a dead stop like that. And it isn't necessarily what they use on the rest of the song. But I would say this is probably pretty close, if not exactly what they're using the rest of the way. It's a good amount of decay. It's not a huge amount of like washing something out with reverb. It's got just the right amount. So it sounds big and live, but not so much to drown in it. It's really, well, very tasteful. That's the word I'm looking for, tasteful.
Stop talking.
I feel attacked.
Stop speeding. We're believing everything we're reading.
This sounds like the most theatrical piece I think I've ever heard from the band. And this could definitely be part of a stage play, a movie, an opera, like a rock opera type thing. I really like the sound of this. It's different for the band, but it sounds really good.
Sunday morning, first saying that my luck was gonna change for good this time.
I really love the organ sound just by itself, just the sound of it. It really is an analog captured device and it sounds fantastic. You could hear the air in there even. But then when it hits the second part, you can see what a difference the simplest change can make. Just that little pulse really changes the feel of it. It makes it more intense. It makes you wonder what's going to happen next. It builds an anticipation that isn't quite there on the first half when it's just the organ. And that's one of the beautiful things about writing music and performing music is that even a subtle change sometimes can just change the entire feeling of a piece. And this is a great example of that. I really like it. And I really love what I'm hearing here.
The rumours run, we guard the times against the independent sun. We scream for words, the story's out, and all before your days begun.
The power of the guitar and the power of the vocals in this song are just stunning. I love the switch back and forth between the different parts, but I'll give you another example of that subtle change that makes a difference is just like the pulse with the synth that Phil was playing, we get the same thing from Russell's kick drum. If it was just, a normal kick drum, which would play, maybe on the 2 or on the and, we are actually getting it on the 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it just drives that song further. It pushes it. It hits us in the chest every time. It's got a great punch to it, and it really, really drives the song. Love the vocals here, though. They're fantastic. This is just another great song on this album. Damn, this album's good. Couple of things to note here. First of all, great keyboard solo, very energetic, right on pace with the energy of the rest of the music. I also really like the way that Russell is switching off the different cymbals that he's riding on. He's got a crash, pretty sure that there's a china in there, but you can hear pitch changes. Then he switches to the ride. It's very dynamic, very adventurous, and a lot of stuff going on. But it, again, adds to the dynamics of the song. You're not just hearing the same thing over and over. There's little changes here and there that make a difference. So during that verse now, the song is full on, right? We've got double bass going all the way through. Dave Rimmer's kicking in with some little accents here and there on the bass that really heighten the feel of the song. The organ and guitars are just rocking hard. Strong layered vocal. This is just throwing everything at the wall and it's all sticking.
Read the headlines every day. Did a killer run amok on Broadway?
There's so much emotion in this, right? We've got just the full sound of the music surrounding us in from every direction. And then the vocals are just so powerful, so emotional. Bernie's really channeling something special here. Wow, what a powerful solo. I really thought it was going to be more emotional, like the way it started off. And I thought, wow, this is the most emotional I've heard Mick play in a while because he hasn't had a song that has a good setup for it. But then he just turned it into an explosive, just foray of notes that was amazing. I love it. I love the power behind it. That whole song, just an emotional roller coaster, gentle, hard, fast, back to gentle, accents here and there. Just an incredible song. This is their writing, I think, at their best. This is some of the best work I've ever heard Heep do. Powerful music, a powerful sound. This is the right album for them to do music like this too, because the sound is finally there. You know, they've got a great engineer really putting something special together, and great writing, great performances, solid band right now. And I love it. I mean, this album has been pretty technical in a lot of spots, but they've been very, very tight doing it. Now, it's easy for me to say that. I wasn't in the studio. This could have been 1 or 2 takes. It could have been 40 takes. I don't know. But from what I know about these guys, it's pretty much you get it in 3 takes. You know, one of the first 3 is going to be it. I remember listening to, I think it was Ian Pace from Deep Purple talking about recording in the studio. And he says, you know, if you don't get it in the first 3 takes, you might as well just stop, because you're going to start overthinking, you know, what was it I did in that one take that I really liked, and trying to capture that again. It's not going to be natural. You know, just stop working on that one, go back to it another day, because you've lost the zone for it. So you've really got to get it in the first couple of passes. And that really does make sense. You know, it's not like bands, when a band does their first album, a lot of times they've been rehearsing it for months, maybe even a couple of years. And then they finally get a record deal. They finally get to go into the studio, and they're just basically recording songs that they were very comfortable with. It doesn't really work like that beyond the first album most of the time. What happens is, okay, we've got you booked in the studio, start writing, and then you've got 2 weeks in the studio, and maybe you've had a couple of rehearsals, a couple of writing sessions. It's not like a lot of times the bands even get to know the songs that well when they record them. A lot of times they learn them from the recording that they just made. Then they're like, okay, now I could just focus on how the song should be and what I played, instead of just getting through the recording. And it's really weird to me, because, you know, I'm so used to just, you know, writing the songs, perfecting them, having everything done before I record them, that the idea of, all right, well, we rehearsed it a couple times. The producers said, let's make these changes. Let's go record it. And you've recorded a song that you're not even that familiar with. That's just really weird to me, but that is how it works in a lot of cases these days. The studios are not cheap. The record companies don't have the budgets that they used to. Nobody's touring, or hardly anybody's touring right now, so they're not making money off the road. So it's kind of a really weird situation right now. Thankfully, we have, you know, home recording is so easy and so simple to access now that a lot of these guys have their own recording studios. They can pass ideas back and forth and kind of perfect the song that way. But to think about, you know, these are pretty fresh songs, and, you know, maybe they've worked on them here and there while they're on tour, but the accuracy, the just how tight they are playing together as a band is really incredible on this album. This is a more technical song. There's a lot going on here. And they made something really, really fantastic with this song. Like I said, it was part cinematic, part really progressive, part just hard driving, gentle vocals, hard vocals. It's all in the song, which is funny because it's all been said as the title. It's all in this song. Very, very good song. Another one that I would absolutely highly recommend to everyone on the planet, and probably other planets. If there's other, life out there, they should hear this song too. That's about that. So anyway, that is our show for today, guys. I hope that this gets you ready for tackling the rest of your Monday. If you're listening to this in the morning, I mean, how can you not just be like pumped to go take on whatever meeting you have or whatever task you have to do today, because the energy is just like flowing through you right now. It's a great song. And anyway, I hope that helped. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. You know what, though? Whether you did or not, I'm coming back tomorrow with another show. So take that. Have a great day, guys. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!